Dark. What's going on, everybody? It's good to see everybody. Good to be here. Tonight, I know it's State of the Union. I got all kinds of stuff going on because it might be a long night as everybody's coming in. I'm wearing my hat, my gift hat that I got, which was sort of incredible. I got this gift hat. Once I was accused of Bigfoot erotica, which we're going to talk about tonight, and I'm going to tell stories of Bigfoot, alien abduction stories. I'm going to go through it all, and I'm going to actually sort of link that to what's going on tonight with the State of the Union. And I had a feeling that people were going to want to come do something where you weren't doom scrolling, looking at all the nuttiness that's going on out there. I wish I could see the number of Substack followers. I'm actually going live to Substack and YouTube, all of StreamYard, so please tell people they can come on. I'm going to look at comments. I think, guys, since I don't have Doug with me tonight, he's doing multiple shows. I think that I can only see comments from YouTube. So, oh my God, they're coming up. Okay, Tim. Tim, could you tell me, are you on YouTube or Substack? Is that where you're actually commenting? Because I'd like to know, as we get started live, if you could just put that up there. I'm actually going to be looking at the comments tonight. So if you guys have any type of questions, I'll try to get to them. I did notice I had a massive show the other night on Anna Polona Luna and Tim Burchett and all the aliens and stuff like that. So I guess there were hundreds of comments, people asking me questions. That thing, I actually got an email from Substack saying it's going crazy. So that was pretty amazing. So YouTube. So guys, you can be on Substack. If you guys are talking on Substack, I get it. I hope you are. I hope you're having a good time. Sadly, without my producer here, I'm not hooked into the Substack. I don't want to actually hook it into my phone because it might get weird, with any type of distortion going back and forth. But so thank you guys for being here. My guess is this is going to go pretty big. I'm sure Trump is about to come out. But the reason I wanted to do this, first of all, was to give people sort of an off ramp into sanity, where you can come over here where for some reason I'm doing real research on fake stuff. But the thing is, I got to do real research and look at disinformation and propaganda because that's the only way for us to understand what's going on with MAGA and Donald Trump's speech tonight. And it also understands why there's, sort of the denial about the Epstein files. It's also about why there's denial about 9/11, also why there's denial about the round earth with the flat earthers, also the denial about the moon landing, but it's also about the January 6th stolen election. It's about QAnon conspiracy theories, which I'm going to go into that, which is interesting based on what they're finding in the Epstein files. We can go into all of that and all the belief systems that's going on. But this is going to be an extended story time. So I want you to be able to grab a bourbon, grab a drink, bring your friends, and let's go have some fun. So here we go. So it looks like comments are echoing on Substack. Thank you, Tim. That makes me happy. I just can't see them there. If people are actually commenting directly on Substack, I can't see them there. So I want to let you guys know that you can do both, I think. There you go. You can do that on the kitchen counter as roll a grapefruit back and forth. So I do hope everybody's on. So why did I want to do this show? So back in, my goodness, when was this? October of 2004. I was 34 years old. You guys can probably do the math on how old I am now. And my wife and I were coming up on our 15th wedding anniversary, October 27th. I got married at 19. I got married very young. And I thought I would surprise my wife with a very cool 15-year anniversary present. So I told her we were going to Hawaii. Well, just so happens, I tricked her. I had actually scheduled a Bigfoot expedition because I thought it was funny. I would like to tell you guys that it wasn't funny. My wife didn't find it funny at all. When we got on the airplane, she was excited. She goes, "Why is this ticket to Seattle?" So, so I took her to Olympic National Forest. So that's what we did. So she was not happy to the point where I didn't know after 15 years at 34 years old if that was it for me. But I want to tell you guys, it actually turned into the reason that I wrote Bigfoot, It's Complicated. It actually long-term was why I ran for office, especially with what happened to me after I went against Trump, which all comes into Bigfoot, It's Complicated, which really is a prequel to The Breach. As you guys know, I wrote The Breach, which my book is right over there. I should have it with me. I wrote The Breach, which is about January 6th and the data and what happened with white nationalists and really what happened behind the scenes, why Trump was responsible, but really about the four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, or the Griftopolis, the Grifter Apocalypse, which was, gosh, Roger Stone, Mike Flynn, Alex Jones, and Steve Bannon, and then Sidney Powell, who was sort of the driver of that chariot. So this really is a prequel. I would say the Bigfoot is complicated and the Breach are almost the same book. So I'm going to tell you what happened my first night when I met the Bigfoot Screamer. I'm not going to tell you his name. Great guy. He was a professional Bigfoot caller. Now, this professional Bigfoot caller was a good man. And when we got there that first night, we were actually given tutorials on how to find Bigfoot, about gait length, how to find the proper stick, if the footprints were so far apart, what wood knocks were, different types of screams, territorial howls, what a mating howl sounds like. And by the way, I almost wonder if a mating howl, I'll tell you about that in a little bit. I don't know if you want to hear a mating howl. I was also asked and told, that was the first time we heard that women at a certain time of the month would be very good Bigfoot bait, believe it or not, which was sort of stunning to my wife. She looked at me and said, "Who are these people?" So they would, even at time during those 4 days, they would send out just women groups. Yeah, I'm not lying to you. Also, we're going to get into the fact that they charge between $2,000 and $5,000 per person for this expedition. And I was able to get a discount because I brought 3 people. By the way, Tim just said, "Honey, I actually have a story about that too." So it's going to get a little bit nuts as we're going here. And so here we go. So my first night, we land in Olympic National Forest, right? The Hoh Rainforest, HOH, and we're staying at the Kalelak Lodge. And if anybody's from that part of the country, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you look at and Kalelak Lodge is incredible because, you got the ocean, the body of water right behind it, right? Massive logs that are sort of, washed up onto the shore. Just incredible place, just beautiful. But a lot of people were staying in a tent city, almost like a military tent city, in the public forest, which again, I found it was illegal to charge for that, but the expedition leader was. And by the way, and I'm going to say this, and nothing against him, but the expedition leader was Matt Moneymaker from Finding Bigfoot. There you go, the first big drop of the night. And I know you guys have watched that with Bobo and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, we get this briefing and we go out in these groups the first night. Christine is shooting daggers at me because she's going off with the women's group, and me and Spinner, my buddy from the Michigan State Police, had met us there. And me and Spinner are going out with the dudes group, and then we were in separate groups. And we just had the great fortune of going out with the Bigfoot Screamer from the Yakima tribe. So we go out there and we're having a hoot. And our first night, me and Steve Spinner, we get put right beside a river, right, during a salmon run. So we're sitting down there on the river, and we got radios. Got what family band radios. We have Gen 2 night vision. And it's very quiet, and the Olympic National Forest is very, very wet. You're in a rainforest. So we're hearing the drops of the water above us in the trees. And we smell this awful stench. And we have Gen 1 night vision. So if you guys have ever used Gen 1 night vision, you know it's shit. It's not very good. You can't see very far. And you have to have an infrared illuminator in order to see anywhere. And we had the worst infrared illuminator. I mean, this is 2004, guys. So Steve is sitting beside me, and we just smell this awful thing. And literally, as soon as we smell the smell, our radio crackles, and it's the expedition leader. He goes, "Listen, guys, I'm going to talk real quiet over the radio because I think there's a Bigfoot coming towards you." Now, let me tell you guys, it's incredibly dark. It's our first night on an expedition. Spinner and I already think this is bullshit, but it's so incredible when you're in the dark. You still get this fear like, is it Bigfoot? I mean, is that what the sounds are down by the river? What is that smell? Now, when you go back and you look at it, I mean, of course the smell was the dead fish. It was a salmon run. It smelled like dead fish, right? Unless Bigfoot use stinkaflage. Now, we were also briefed that Bigfoot can take on any of the smells that it wants to. We were also briefed that Bigfoot can almost manipulate his micron range. The reason you can't see him in infrared is because his fur is so thick that he can actually almost manipulate his body temperature. Did you guys know this? So we already, even before we got started, we were already given alibis on why Bigfoot was so hard to find, right? Not only is it very difficult to see him with infrared because of his ability to control his outer temperature, he also could stink like other animals and mimic other animals. So if you hear a coyote noise, it could be a Bigfoot mimicking a coyote. Now, so here we go. So we're sitting there and we hear this crunching and stuff like that. By the way, I don't know if you guys know, there's animals in the forest. And the first thing I want to tell everybody is we're going forward. Whenever you're faced with a situation where you hear a noise you don't know in the woods, your first explanation is probably not a mythical creature or an interdimensional being. It's probably something of the fauna that actually belongs in the woods. Anyhow, we're told to be very still because Bigfoot is attracted to movement. And since we're in his living room, he can hear and see us. We just can't hear and see him. And obviously, you guys already know the reason. You're answering in your head. Well, Denver, of course. He can smell like anything. He can sound like anything. And he can actually manipulate his body heat. Now, after about 20 minutes, all of a sudden, we hear the sound literally 20 feet, 30 feet to our left in the pitch black darkness. I will tell you guys, 34 years old, even with my rational mind on a reel-to-reel, trying to make sense of the situation, there was a moment, a split second, and I'm not going to lie to any of you, where I thought maybe that was Bigfoot. That I was about to be made love to. I was very worried. Because if Bigfoot is 8 feet tall and 475 pounds, we're going to have a tough time, right? I mean, Bigfoot's going to have a much bigger shoe size than Shaquille O'Neal. So anyhow, we're getting this freaking whispered screams almost over the radio, like, be quiet, it's almost there, it's almost there. Then we hear a grunt, and it just happens to be the Yakima screamer. He had been walking a zigzag pattern all the way up to us. Now you guys are like, Denver, why start with that? I wanted to start with that because sometimes fear can overcome even rationality. And almost 100 times out of 100, you're going to be right based on what you've already experienced, what you know, your scientific process, the fact that you know the animals in the woods, the fact that you know that the probability of a Bigfoot, of some kind of large multiple giant bipedals, stomping through the woods is literally ridiculous. But again, it's very difficult, right, to keep that system in place. So as you're listening to the State of the Union tonight, the thing that Donald Trump is going to rely on is fear, sort of that amygdala hitting baseball bat. It's the same thing, guys. So let me flip. What's it about QAnon or fake moon landings or anything like that actually talks about what Bigfoot belief systems are? And it's because it's that one thing that scares them, or that one thing that's sort of out of whack. They disregard their credulity, and their lack of critical thinking disregards everything else that's going on. For a second, I could say, man, that must be a Bigfoot, right? That's coming towards me. And then when the Bigfoot tracker comes out, or the Bigfoot screamer, the caller, I'm like, well, it was Bigfoot. It interdimensionally disappeared, which I would get that over and over again during the Bigfoot expeditions I went on. Because I'll tell you, after the 2004 expedition, I really wanted to go on more of these because I got the idea right then to write a book about these behaviors that first night. So we come back, and I love that. So I heard a strange cry while camping in the Three Sisters Wilderness, which was not an elk, but I did not think much of it until I heard it again on the Art Bell show from a Bigfoot hunter, Thunderbird 3694. I understand. So I'm going to actually answer that question. Here we go. It was not Betty Hill, Outpost Health, in her UFO. So thank you, Tim, for that comment on tariff money. So we were actually in the Adirondacks in 2006 when we had this very thing happen. We had a recording of what they called Samurai, which was a language that Bigfoots like to speak. So when you're looking at 2004, now we're back in 2006 in the Adirondacks. We were actually running one of our own expeditions there with ESPN Outdoors. I was with Don Barone from ESPN. So we're sitting out there, And we had these recordings, and we had a chance to meet with a park ranger in the Adirondacks, a guy that'd been there for 40 or 50 years. So we went to the ranger shack. I'm with Don Barone. I'm with Spinner. I'm with me. This is 2 years later. And we go up to the ranger and we play the recording. And we're like, we've never heard this in the woods. This is magical. Is this a Bigfoot? Now, of course, we still didn't believe, but there were some things that we had weird things happen, right? Sometimes you hear a woods, some kind of snap in the woods, or you hear a weird noise, right? So the ranger listens to the noise, and you know what he said? And I'm answering the question for Thunderbird here. Said, that's a bear. The bears do that when they're fighting over food. That's all that is. He goes, who would tell you that's some kind of creature? I've been out here for 40 years. There ain't no Bigfoot. Now, that's anecdotal. So let's go back to 2004. I guess what I'm saying, Thunderbird, is this. If there's something in the woods and it's a noise, it's probably going to be something that belongs in those woods in that specific portion of the United States. Now, it could be that noise was a coyote. On the Art Bell show, you don't know if that's a call blaster. So here's the other thing, everybody. Do you know that Bigfoot hunters have call blasters? So all these things you hear that you think are Bigfoot, they'll come up with these huge speakers and blast those calls down through the valleys and canyons. And sometimes there's no coordination between these Bigfoot hunters, right? These Bigfoot expedition people. So they're actually utilizing big call blasters. So there was one time I'm on the woods, I hear this long range howl, and I'm like, hey, are you guys blasting? And they're like, no. Well, there was another group out there blasting that we found out about 2 hours later. So I guess what I'm telling everybody is that usually it's a very simple explanation. Use Occam's razor. If you hear something in the woods that sounds really eerie and scary and screamy, it could be a possum, a raccoon. Have you guys heard foxes in the wild? Now, I've been a hunter my whole life. So if you guys look up fox noises, coyote noises, things like that, bear noises, grunts, things of that nature, you start to say, oh my God, we didn't know they made those kind of noises. So you don't know what you're dealing with, right? And that's the thing is that, again, when I hear people like, oh my God, that must be a Bigfoot, I'm like, that's probably a coyote. And they're like, no, it's a Bigfoot copying a coyote. So those are the issues that we're going with right now. All right, so here we go. 2004, I'm sitting around the fire, right? And we're debriefing at the end of the night. And I'm with, God, I want to say their names so badly. I'm with Joe, right? The Yakima tracker and Bigfoot screamer. When I say Bigfoot screamer, he screamed for Bigfoot. He's like, ooh, territorials or whistles, for territorial calls, big howls, right? Warning howls or mating howls. He had all kinds of different stuff. By the way, I don't know how you know those are the howls of Bigfoot. And I'll tell you, if there's a mating howl 10 feet from me, you should be afraid. So we're sitting around a fire and we're having a discussion about if Bigfoot is an ape or if Bigfoot is a human. So there's about 5 or 6 people around the fire, me, my wife, and Spinner. So about 9 people. Joe, he's close by, the expert. So we're having this discussion about everything that everybody saw. And for me and Spinner, we're like, we didn't see anything, and we smelled some dead fish. Obviously, there was a very robust debate that the dead fish had to be some kind of stinkaflage, that Bigfoot was there. And we were so close-minded is that we did not recognize that Bigfoot was very close to us. And it was only because of Joe's appearance that Bigfoot didn't come up and tap us on the shoulder. So they're having this discussion. And one lady said, well, I'm absolutely sure he's Homo erectus. Homo erectus being the more hominid portion of this debate. And another one goes, well, I'm an amateur primatologist, and we're quite sure he's a Gigantopithecus blackie. Now, Gigantopithecus blackie was the gorilla back in the day, 30, 40,000 years ago, died off, extinct, massive creatures, much bigger than the silverbacks today. You guys can look up Gigantopithecus blackie and Homo erectus and all of the Homo genus species. And the argument between these two ladies was that one said he's got to be descended from a human, the other from a gorilla. And the one woman goes, well, I know that he's descended from a human because he's proportionate. Now, this might be in the book where they might have got the idea because I'm talking about cult behavior, where I said, what the hell is that? And I remember my wife leaned forward like, what are you talking about, proportionate? She said, well, humans, or simians have some of the largest phalluses in the animal kingdom. And Bigfoot's proportionate, right? He's 8 to 9 feet tall. He's got to be proportionate. We're like, oh my God, what are you talk? You talking about like his his bits, right? His block and tackle. She's like, absolutely. Well, the other goes, there is no way. There's no way. It is descended from an ape. I'm like, oh my God, descended from an ape? How do you know? She goes, well, I know. I'm an amateur primatologist. So Joe is sitting over there, and Joe goes, well, we just took a sighting from a lady on the reservation, large male. She thought it was 10 feet tall. And my wife goes, well, look, because was it proportion? He goes, what? That was our first conversation. It gets worse. So these ladies don't like each other already. And so there was a person there and goes, well, I found Bigfoot droppings. This is, guys, this is facts-based. This is completely true. And I'm actually sort of downplaying it because I'm almost worried sometimes that people aren't going to believe some of these things, but they're absolutely true. And he goes, I found some Bigfoot droppings. I said, well, how do you know there were Bigfoot droppings? Because I'm an amateur scatologist. Now, guys, do you know what a scatologist is? They research poop. Scat. This guy's hobby was looking at poop for free. What? So I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I found a very large sample. I have it in my bag over there. I said, did you like pick it up and put it in the bag? Like, you have gloves? He goes, well, of course I have gloves. I said, well, how do you know that it's Bigfoot scat? He goes, well, the size is massive. I said, well, there's bears out here and massive animals and elk. And right. I mean, how do you know? He goes, well, it's human, cylindrical human massive. And we don't have this kind of capability. I said, was Bigfoot have a asshole the size of a softball? What are you talking about? They didn't like that. So we're just roasting hot dogs and marshmallows over a fire and having this back and forth conversation. At that point, I'm like, this is amazing. We hadn't had the interdimensional Bigfoot thing yet, so I'm going to get to that. Because Bigfoot can't be killed, as everybody knows, because it's interdimensional. There's also the interstellar Bigfoots, and we'll get to that. So as we're going along, they said, we're going to be baiting Bigfoot tonight. I said, oh, we are. I said, okay. And they said, yeah, we have some ideas. I said, well, I have a great idea because you know what everybody else likes. I would like everybody here to put on here. What do you think every human and animal would eat? Like, I'm trying to think of like the thing that every single animal would eat. I'm going to give you guys a few seconds and you can put your comments down. What do you think is the, what do you guys think I said, right, to these individuals, right, on what they were baiting with? And I just saw our viewership went down a little bit. I know it's just YouTube and not, but my guess is that the State of the Union started already. The SOTU, has it started? I said peanut butter and jelly. The amateur primatologist wanted to fight me. She stands up. This is 3 o'clock in the morning because you only look at Bigfoot at night for some reason. I guess Bigfoot doesn't like to walk around during the day, even though there's all kinds of day sightings. You know what she told me? She goes, you're evil. Everybody who's ever searched for Bigfoot knows he's gluten intolerant. I didn't even know what to say. Okay, let me talk about logic really quick. What is the downstream of that? Number one, have you scientifically, at any point, thought at any point that Bigfoot and tested that he's gluten intolerant? Ever? And that's the question I want to ask you. And guys, I know everybody's going to come back and play this. And I know we're not going to get, people will start coming on here, probably after the State of the Union, but I hope they come here. But my question to all of you, all the people, Substack does have a pretty healthy viewership. Everybody should be watching this. My question is, how do you have scientific discovery on gluten allergies for peanut butter and jellies for Bigfoot? And have you ever, in a scatologist, have you ever caught a Bigfoot in mid squat? Well, the other thing, if you're talking about Bigfoot and you're talking about phallus size, as whether it's Homo erectus or it's Gigantopithecus blacki, the ancestors of Bigfoot, has there actually been a measurement of a phallus? Or is it just people that are in some kind of weird, that's what I saw. That's what I had to see. And that was the first type of questions I started to ask of the people around the fire. And all I had to do was dig down one layer, and they hated my guts on the first night. The first night. Because I just couldn't grasp how somebody could come to the conclusion that Bigfoot has a gluten allergy. A gluten allergy. I don't know how to even get my arms around it. So when I was looking at Bigfoot, so when I went home, even back in 2004, there was a website called Bigfoot Forums. You guys can actually find it now. So I'm going to give you some of the search terms and some of the topics in Bigfoot Forums. And then I'm going to go into the 4 different belief systems of Bigfoot. And then we're going to go into aliens, because Bigfoot is an alien, by the way. I don't know if you guys knew this. An alien on 2 levels, an interdimensional alien or energy being, and also a hard body alien. And I'll get into the differences between those types of aliens. So here we go. Here are some Bigfoot forum topics. I hope you guys are ready. 1 million bounty for Bigfoot. By the way, this is 127 on Bigfoot. It's complicated. Listen, this is on audiobook also, and I just want to let you guys know, I've really never pushed this. There's some good friends on here who knows this. I actually put in Bigfoot sounds in the audiobook. By the way, he could be from Kolob. Okay, Alpo Self asked a question, is he from Kolob? That's why I love questions. Here he goes, guys. In the Mormon faith, a lot of Mormons believe that Bigfoot is a descendant of Cain, that his curse when he killed Abel was that he was made hairy and huge and banned and banished into the woods. That's not a bad question. Bigfoot's favorite snack? Thank you, Many Eights. This is getting great. I hope people are watching this. Here we go, right? Bigfoot's favorite anecdotal phallus analysis. Tree Me Green, could you please? Everybody needs to copy that and put that on a t-shirt. But Bigfoot's favorite snack, as far as I know, is squirrel heads. And we're going to get to that also. So anyway, or the body of the squirrel. I swear to God. Because we're going to talk about stick signs and gifting also tonight. I know you guys are like, this is the best effing show in the history of mankind for State of the Union. I hope everybody's on here. So here's some of the topics on Bigfoot Forum. So you're talking about belief systems. I want you guys to listen to what this really was. This is between 2004 and 2008. Bigfoot Forums. At that point, I think it had 135,000 users. I think Bigfoot Forums is still there today. $1 million bounty for Bigfoot. Any takers? Changing or desecrating Bigfoot formations. What happens if you urinate on one? This is true, guys. I couldn't take it. I had to write this book, right? Okay, here we go. Is global warming forcing Bigfoot to head north? Huh. I don't know. Okay, if you guys look at those first 3 questions, could you just go one layer? Okay, first of all, what the hell's a Bigfoot formation? Now, Bigfoot formations could be a cairn, right? A lot of people say the cairns that you find in the woods, that's a Bigfoot formation. Also, any type of Bigfoot shelter. I remember there was somebody who worked in Congress, was a chief of staff, who asked me because of this book if I would go out and look at his property for Bigfoot formations, and I did. That was a day, right? Bigfoot birthing. I wonder what it's like. The giants of Okefenokee Swamp. Where has all the smell gone? Now, where has all the smell gone also could be a t-shirt, but here's why that was asked on Bigfoot Forums, is because they were wondering why some Bigfoots could mask their smell. What are they doing with Bigfoot bones and bodies? So that's that's one of the arguments from people who say that Bigfoot doesn't exist, is they never find bones. And people are like, well, you never find bear bones. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And we find deer bones. Yep, you can. Yeah, you know how I know we find bear bones? Because I found a bear that had been killed, and I found its bones. Is the Eastern Bigfoot a Bigfoot human hybrid? Now, this is interesting, right? Now, what they suggested was that Bigfoot had mated with some humans. And that was a big topic of discussion. Has Bigfoot mated with humans? Maybe. As I sneeze. I mean, has anybody seen Andre the Giant? Okay. Could Bigfoot be feral humans? Now, this is a pretty good question. Is Bigfoot just humans that ran into the woods, right? That's what I want to know, right? Is that number 10? So this is what I wanted to get to. There's 30 of them, but number 10, some of these are crazy. Burned Bigfoot captured by government. There's a bunch of conspiracy theories. You guys know when Mount St. Helens erupted, the Forest Service came and took all the dead and burned Bigfoots and took them to the basement of the Smithsonian. One of the big conspiracy theories, and I will let you guys know this because this sparks everything I know about Bigfoot, and this is why you need to be around a fire drinking a bourbon. If you're actually in Mount St. Helens, when it exploded, the reason that the Rangers and the U.S. government went and took the hundreds of dead Bigfoot bodies is because Big Timber, the big logging companies did not want that to be protected land. So they paid off the government to hide the Bigfoots so they could keep foresting. They could keep timbering all the big timber in Washington and Oregon. And a lot of those bodies are hidden in the basement of the Smithsonian. Does that sound familiar? QAnon. Bodies hidden in the basement of Congress. Bodies hidden in the basement of Comet Ping Pong. Remember, literally conspiracy theories don't just rhyme, they repeat. Number 10, baiting with women. So a big proponent in Bigfoot circles is that women at that certain time of the month, which I find absolutely horrific, right, is that that's why Bigfoot's attracted. And my question to the Bigfoot trackers, what would be your first question? Well, aren't there female Bigfoots? I mean, is it that misogynistic? Like literally, if you have 8 breeding pairs of Bigfoots, is it only the males that are out at night? Like if the whole family unit is nocturnal, like what the hell? I mean, wouldn't I want to have female Bigfoots coming on, right? Wouldn't I want to sing Journey's Touching, Loving, Squeezing? And you're like, well, Den, why would you sing a song? Because a lot of Bigfoot believers believe that nursery rhymes or quiet songs actually attract Bigfoot because Bigfoot is curious. So during this whole trip, they would be singing. The women would go out separately because they were better bait. You guys are like, I think Denver's angry. I'm not. It's not that I'm angry. It's that it's so effing stupid that it's hard for me after 22 years of chasing cultists and conspiracy theorists and trying to get through to them in any way, including QAnon, including MAGA, including Trump cultists, including Epstein folks. The thing that I've been trying to tell people is that you have no way to defend any type of mythical or cryptid creature one layer beneath common sense based on facts or data. If you have an IQ above moron, it shouldn't be any issue. And why I talk about in my shows, not only in The Breach, but Denver After Dark and all of these shows that I'm on about what you need to do is that it's all about 3 questions. It's what's the source? What's the information that you're utilizing? And why did you come to the conclusion with that information? That's how you structure all of your arguments. Now, of course, I learned that a little bit in intelligence training and interrogation training, right? And I learned about sourcing because I had to, right? I even at some point had to go through message traffic and look at specific sourcing based on coding, right? Which is a just military term. If anybody was in intelligence, you know about the actual forms that come out and all those type of things. So what I want to tell you guys, right, is that when you do these type of arguments, even with people that say, hey, right, we know that Biden's a pedophile. What would be your first what would be your first question? Well, what's your source material? Well, we had a picture of him sniffing hair. So where did that source come from? Well, where did that picture come from? What is your source? Can't answer it. I don't know if you guys know this. A lot of the Biden pictures were actually manipulated. You guys probably already knew of this, and I'm not trying to insult anybody's intelligence. Also, they would catch him right in that specific act with multiple frames, and those pictures would be utilized and blown up and lied about. Propaganda. which we can talk about the Hunter Biden forensics and all that kind of stuff because I did that too on his laptops. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you then, if you go, I think Trump is pedo adjacent. I think Trump is a child rapist. They're like, what's your source? Epstein files. They'll say, well, there's nothing specific. Well, yeah, there is. There's pictures, there's redactions. We already know that they hid files. So my question is, who wins the source game? And they say, well, what information did you come up with that? Well, the information from the Epstein files, but also past performance is indicative of future performance. Has Biden been adjudicated for sexual assault? No, Trump has. Trump is also a felon. As you go down the logic line, you're going to drive some people away. But if you do it in the right way, you're able to sort of sometimes maybe find that middle ground. It's very difficult, though. I'm not telling you guys I'm angry. Sometimes I get very exhausted by this, and there's people on this show who know how exhausted I am. Here's a question I have for the whole audience. Are you guys ready? Would a human and Bigfoot mating produce offspring? Maybe. Andre the Giant? Okay, there's what's one layer underneath that? Is Bigfoot an ape? Gigantopithecus black ears and Homo erectus. Holy shit. Bigfoot mating. Has anyone ever reported it, heard, or seen it? Yes. I've talked to people who've seen Bigfoot mating. That's what they told me. I'm not going to tell you the question I asked, but it wasn't missionary. Infrasound and Bigfoot. Okay, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a huge theory that Bigfoot produces infrasound like an elephant. The terror that you feel in the woods when you're close to a Bigfoot, that jingling in your chest, well, that's not adrenaline or cortisol. That's not fear of the dark. All right, our evolutionary scale that we have, right? That being in the dark and not seeing things and hearing large things means you need to take cover. It's nothing like that. No, Bigfoot's producing infrasound, low frequency sound that produces terror. Not only that, that infrasound is coupled with terror vibes. Bigfoot is so evolved that he can use his mind to telepathically induce adrenaline or cortisol rushes in your body, guys. Did you know that? Is there any evidence of polygamy in Sasquatch? Asked by a Mormon. I'm kidding. I don't know. I was raised Mormon. So I want to ask all of you, right? Is there any evidence of polygamy? Bigfoot and courting couples in parked cars, etc. There's also a thing that sex attracts Bigfoot for the obvious reason: smell. 6 feet or 20. How tall is your Bigfoot? It's a little bit seductive. And I don't know if you guys are seeing this and why I'm reading some of this, but there's a couple more here that I have to add, that I have to do. And I think you guys are going to love that. Lure Bigfoot with pornography. Could it work? Okay. Here's my question to everybody watching. And you know what? I should have 1 million people watching this. All right. Here's the thing. Are you setting up a projector in the woods? What does luring look like? How are you going to lure him? What does that look like? How are you going to lure him? Are you hanging magazines? I mean, you got a Hustler and a Wii. You can tell I'm Gen X, right? Do you have all these magazines around, right? What? Do you have a projector in the woods? Are you making porn sounds like when you sing in the woods? I've asked these questions. What do you mean? Well, it works. What, do you have a sound blaster? Like when you're blasting noises? We've had people out there with the coyote calls, mimicking dead rabbits, mimicking rabbits that are dying or young rabbits to bring in Bigfoot. They brought in coyotes. Like what? If you blast porn through the woods, you're going to bring in human males. That's what you do. Come on. Let's be real here. Let's use some common sense. I mean, if it's 2:00 in the morning and you hear porn noises up on the other hill, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, men and women? You're going to go, I want to go see what's going on over there. You're luring humans. You're luring them. I'm not even going to say this. Clay County Bigfoot, My Years of Nightly Visits. Okay, there's a book out there about stick signs and how you gift with Bigfoot. Now, this is a whole nother line. I don't know if I want to go down right now, but I don't know. I'm going to go back to the question about squirrel eating. It seems like that Bigfoot likes to gift squirrel heads if he really likes you. If you gift him apples or you gift him some kind of things like trinkets or something like that, that Bigfoot will interact with you. Now, doesn't matter what type of Bigfoot. That Bigfoot is curious. I know it's evolved for millions of years or thousands of years to be furtive and to never come there, but by God, he will come out and take your oranges and leave you a squirrel head. Sasquatch, a multidimensional being. Could the legend himself be from another dimension? Absolutely. Let's talk about the 4 different types of Bigfoot belief systems with that incredible segue. As we're going, Dot, I can see you're texting over here. So if you could tell me how we're doing on Substack, here we go. So there's 4 different types of Bigfoots I've learned over my expeditions and in writing this book. Number 1, BEs, biological entities. These are Bigfoots that are Homo erectus or Johnnycanopithecus blacki. They are found. They're just a lost ape. They're something that Jane Goodall would look for. So that is the first sort of basic. Now, there are subcategories of the biological entity belief systems. They can have infrasound, right? They can do terror vibes. They can manipulate their outside micron layers. You know, there's stuff like that where you have these subcultures within the biological entity belief systems. There's a lot of them, but there were so many that I went with BE as sort of that acronym to go forth. Also, there's the no kill and kill crowd in the BE community. Some say we should kill them in order to have a carcass. That's why you get the kill parties or the Bigfoot kill expeditions. I was on Bigfoot find expeditions or search expeditions. Also, to let you guys know, there's huge money in Bigfoot, and we're going to get into that. That Bigfoot belief and myth and all this is really just about money. It's follow the money. And I knew you guys probably knew I was going to get there. Number 2. The second is the interstellar Bigfoot. Bigfoot is a guide for the grays. So this is the hard body alien theory that Bigfoot is literally an alien that comes down just like the Greys or the Anunnaki or the Brnu or the Draconians, right? Or the Dracos or the Nordics, all the different types. Bigfoot is just another type of alien from another planetary alien, interstellar, usually found around other aliens. I don't know. Bigfoot's like the bouncer at the alien party, right? He sort of comes in first. He's like, hey, leave us alone, man. Right. So that's what you got with the Bigfoot. So you have the interstellar theory that he's actually a UFO rider. UFO rider. Okay. So I'm going to go into the third, which is the Magic Man myth. That's the Native American myth that Bigfoot is here as I guess as a gift from the Great Spirit. Also, some of the weird things when you get into the Native American, the Magic Man, which I call the MM, the Magic Man theory, is that they can take your soul with your eyes. Since the Great Spirit and Bigfoot are interconnected, if you go into their territory, they will take you with their eyes. So you don't ever look them in the eyes and don't follow them into the woods. There's many stories that I have on tape where Native Americans will say that children were lured into the woods by a Bigfoot, Oma, Stickman, right? Yaren, Almasti, right? You can go to the different countries who have all of these sort of theories. We're not talking about skunk apes or wood boogers. Skunk apes, wood boogers are the BE type. We're talking about literally Oma, Bigfoot, Native American mythology, almost spirit Bigfoots, but also you can touch them, feel them, they can grab you, they can rip you to pieces. The fourth one is the Quaventalur. The Quaventalur is an interdimensional Bigfoot. Now, the interdimensional Bigfoots are usually here as guides for the harmonic universe war. So in the book, The Voyagers by Ashiana Deanne, you have the Quaventalur, which is a mystical Bigfoot or interdimensional Bigfoot, can also give prophecy. So you have this, right? So this interdimensional Bigfoot is a energy being. You can't kill it. But then there is a subgroup of that interdimensional being called smokefoots, right? So you have the smokefoots, which if you blow smoke into the woods and you get a face in the smoke, those are interdimensional Bigfoot portals. So you have people that walk in the woods and they blow smoke into the woods, and that smoke opens up those portals. How do I know? Because a white van with no windows, one dude and three hippie chicks came to Don Barone's and I hotel in the Adirondacks to show us pictures of the Bigfoot smoke portals, and then took us to the woods where I thought I was going to be absconded with. I know a lot about real research into fake things, because it's the fake things that drives people belief systems and how they live their life. I can go on on Bigfoot. It's been 46 minutes, and I know you guys are just enthralled. Alpo Self, this is a serious topic. I don't think he should blow smoke all right up the tuchus. Probably is appropriate for this forum. Okay. When you're talking about interstellar Bigfoots, or you're talking about the Quiventalore, had a Marine lieutenant colonel who believed in the interdimensional Bigfoot and also was big into Catholicism. He thought they were pretty much one and the same. One time he came to me, I was at his townhouse. We were at Fort Meade at NSA. And he comes up to me and he says, "Hey, Bigfoot approached me last night." It's true. He knew that I was writing this book. And he said, "Bigfoot hovered over my bed and told me that one of your bedrooms of your daughters is possessed." I said, "Let me get this straight." I said, "So a Bigfoot hovered horizontally over your bed?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Okay. So if he hovered horizontally, was it male or female?" It's just awkward. He goes, "It was male." I said, "Oh, was it proportionate?" You can see how long that joke took. Thing is, it's not really a joke. It's true. Okay. So I invite him to my house. Now, if my wife was here, all this is validated and sourced. I showed up with my friend. I'll call him Bobby. I'll call him Ricky Bobby, right? So I show up with my friend Ricky Bobby, right, at my house, 3 Glenhurst Road, Shrewsbury. I don't live there anymore. Beautiful house. And he comes up with a saint figurine and buries it in my yard as soon as he gets there. And he said, "This is to start the process of getting the spirit out." Now, I don't know how saints match the interdimensional Quiventalore, but it did. Lieutenant Colonel in the Marine Corps. And that's why people are like, "Oh, Denver, everybody in the military." I was in the military. No. Same amount of nut balls per capita in the military as there are in the civilian population, and maybe more based on their training. Okay. So let's get that straight. Why everybody's like, "Well, they can't be that." No, they can. Trust me. Just because you're military doesn't mean that there's a predilection of nuttery at a certain statistical rate within all the armed forces. And he was a Marine. I'm kidding. I love Marines. Hey, guys, I was Air Force. Anyway, we go in and he goes, "I know which room it is." And we go up to my youngest daughter's room. And by the way, guys, this is the weirdest story, and I hope you guys are ready for this. Her room was clean. It's then I knew she was possessed. So you got like, what the? There isn't. She is possessed. What has happened? Her room is clean. I'm sure Mama told her to do that before we had our guests come over. So we go up there, we hold hands, and he actually, as a Bigfoot channeler, says, "The mystical man has demanded that you go to the light." And we're holding hands. He goes, "Bow our heads." Then he prays to God. It's the mystical Bigfoot was his intermediary. I would say, for us, raised Mormon, right? Believed in the separate Godhead or the Trinity, right? Our intermediary really was Jesus to God. If you look at Catholicism and you look at the Virgin Mary and We can go into different types of intermediaries, but for him, it seemed like Bigfoot, the interdimensional Bigfoot, was his intermediary. And so he cast out the demon with Bigfoot. And then we had Chili, which also can cast out the demon, let me tell you. So we have all that happening, right? The thing about interdimensional beings, interstellar, magic man theory, even the BE theory, are all the sub-theories that surround it based on what the belief systems are. And the fact is, these four belief systems do not get along. And if that makes you think, oh my God, think about Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, and January 6th, the other white nationalist groups. Also think about ISIS, Al-Qaeda. I think there's 73 different sects of Islam. When you look at Christianity, just so many, right? Even offshoots, right? Like LDS, Jehovah's Witness, Scientology, right? It's on and on and on. And my question to everybody here, and I'm sure there's religious people, and again, I'm not judging the fact that you have a belief system. What I'm asking people to think about is your belief system overcoming the facts of a specific situation or of something that happened, or does it color, right, what you're actually looking at? For instance, right, orbs. I was in a ghost hunt in a basement, and they're snapping pictures, and it was dusty as hell down there. This was in Gettysburg. I was with ESPN again. We were looking for the ghost of Eddie Plank, who was a catcher, I think, back in the 1900s for one of the baseball teams. That was his old house, and they said that the baseball player haunted it. By that time, Don Barone and I were being asked to do all these crazy stories based on ESPN Outdoors wanting us to look for Bigfoot. True story. So I put on all the catcher's gear, and I'm sitting down there, and they're snapping pictures, and we have people like fainting from the spiritual energy. I was just hot as hell in a catcher's mask catching phantom baseballs, and Don's laughing his ass off. And I'm looking around while people are using freaking divining rods, right? They're crossing like, he's here, he's here. I don't smell leather. What are you talking about? I'm hot as shit. Can we get out of the basement? I'm hungry and I want a beer, right? So we were on this ghost hunt. Well, they're snapping pictures. And let me tell you guys, everybody was like shaking, like we feel spirits. And I'm sitting there like, am I cursed? Like, I don't feel shit. There's nothing here. This is like just a sort of shitty basement in Gettysburg. Not kidding, guys. Well, we come out and I was told that I'm just not in tune. I'm a blocker. But what's interesting, they took the pictures, they were orbs. I'm like, there's dust. No. He was here. There's spirits here. Might not be Eddie Plank. I was with a spirit guide. And I just screwed the spirit guide up. I just kept asking questions until the spirit guide didn't want to talk to me anymore. Well, how do you know it's Eddie Plank? He said there's multiple spirits. Do you know the names of everybody? You know we're here looking for Eddie Plank. There's a reason I'm telling you all this. Because The Breach about J6 is the exact same book. And that's what scares me about what's going on in the USA. We have this baseline of policy, this baseline that we cannot control. When you're looking at UFO belief, when you're looking at alien abductions or alien belief, there is no verifiable proof, nothing validated. It goes to the grift. 2004, there were 40 people at the Bigfoot expedition, all paying between $2,000 and $5,000 apiece. Can you guys do the math on that? And then that group, the BFRO, the Bigfoot Research Organization, were the ones that were featured in Finding Bigfoot for 10 seasons. They made a lot of money. They grifted their way on the Animal Planet. I'm not even joking. Think about Expedition Bigfoot or all these other Bigfoot shows. How many Bigfoots have been found? How many Jesuses have been found? How many spirits have been captured? There is no Ghostbusters. And I think what scares me is I've seen so much fraud and grift. I've seen so much at this envelope of money making by mining people who are either ignorant or looking for something, some way in their life, right? Or they already have a baseline of belief systems that makes them susceptible to that type of belief. Again, so listen, if I meet somebody who believes in the Quaventa lore, I know they believe in UFOs and abductions. I also know at 90% they believe the election was stolen. I also know that they consider flat earth theory may be real. I also know they're going to argue with me about a faked moon landing. They're going to have issues with 9/11 because once you get into that baseline, you can't get out of it. And who in our government has that baseline of credulous belief systems? Everyone. And if you look at Tulsi Gabbard, if you look at Pete Hegseth, if you look at congressional representatives like Anna Paulina Luna, and God bless them, Tim Burchett and Eric Burleson, and you look at the people that go up there and testify, David Grush and Lou Elizondo and all these individuals, I guarantee you, I have more experience in my pinky on data schematics, on special access programs and special technical operations than they all have ever combined, all of them. But I don't go out there and brag about it. I don't go out there and say, oh, and utilize that knowledge to mine and trick people to give me money. That's what you're seeing in the State of the Union tonight. Everything that he says up there. It's all about what he can actually get people to believe to vote for. The stolen election thing, he has to keep going. And it's going to keep going. And there's going to be awful things happen into 26 and 28. Because what did I tell everybody? And I swear to God, I know I'm not trying to preach, but past performance is indicative of future performance. And the overarching stupidity is terminal, right? There's a credulity crisis in our country. Boy, that's an alarming alliteration. There's a credulity crisis in our country that's very difficult for us to get our arms around. So you have all these people out there. And the reason I'm alone, or I with people that I love, and I did a little bit with Dean Blundell earlier on his show, and Zev Shalev and Lev Parnas, because they love to talk to me about this kind of stuff. Great people, right? Is I just want to tell people what's up. I don't want to do joint shows with people where all the clicks are coming in. And I love some of those people. I do. You know, I was invited to everything tonight. Everybody wants me on a stage talking about what's going on with Donald Trump, because there's not a lot of people who've been in the room with Donald Trump and with Joe Biden. I have. There's not a lot of people who were the senior technical advisor for the J6 committee. I was. There's not a lot of people who are counterterrorism experts. I am. Not a lot of people who run very robust tech companies and know what he's seeing in the air, who's done drone warfare, weaponized drones. I have. I've been to Ukraine and seen the advanced drone warfare. This guy. I know what Starlink looks like in Eastern Europe. This guy. And I'm not bragging. It's just I'm fortunate at 55 years old to have this experience. And I think people have finally talked me into the fact, like, Denver, we know you tried for 3 years with the breach. We know what you saw. We know you're jaded. You got to get back in the game. And I'm running multiple companies, guys. Multiple companies. Not only do I do massive AI automation in the intelligence and health field, I do massive work in automation for video surveillance using AI automation layers. That's what my company does. We're badasses. But I also have a family-run business in manufacturing for whiskeys. Supply chain issues, tariffs, I know that too. I'm a very good at tax policy. It's because I had to be, because you survive as a business owner. I was on the China task force. When I was in Congress, I was on financial services. They made me, as a freshman congressman, the vice ranking member for national security because of my money flow experience and Find the Money. I'm giving you my bona fides now, and there's a reason. Look me up. Source me. Source the data. Source what I'm doing. This isn't do your own research, it's validate your own sourcing. And that's the split that I'm trying to do if you guys are going back and forth between the State of the Union. It's much more than Bigfoot. It's complicated in the breach. And there's funny stuff in here, as you guys know, right? But what I found when I was doing this is that I had an experience that I want to tell you guys about. And I might end with this, but I don't know, because if you guys are still having fun, I need an encore, because now it looks like I'm getting more and more people on. Here we go. When I was in my last night, by the way, I met Bob Gimlin. You guys know the Gimlin-Patterson film, 1967. I know Bob. I interviewed Bob. It's in my book, right? And I'm pretty sure I got Bob to admit it was bullshit. Nobody cared, though. There's a lot of money to be made here, guys. So I'm sitting there last night. We have a guy come up to me, sits down. He goes, "You work for NSA, don't you?" I said, "I do." He goes, what do you do? I said, well, I do special projects. He goes, well, he goes, well, we know why you're here. I said, you do? Now, literally, guys, that was my first expedition, and I was there to prank my wife. Swear to God, that was it. Guys, I'm not, just because I was trained in intel ops and signals intelligence and some human intelligence doesn't mean I'm some kind of weird ass going out Bigfoot expeditions just to mine these people, right, for my own means. It literally was a prank. I said, you do? He goes, yeah, you're here to report on us. I said, I am. He goes, yeah. Because I know you know. I know you have the clearances. I know you know where Bigfoot is. I said, were you in the military? He goes, oh, yeah, I had a secret clearance. So you did. I said, do you know how many people have top secret clearances? He's like, no. I said, how about top secret SCI? How about Central Compartment Information? He goes, I don't know. I said, how about Gamma? How about Human Control System, HCS? I said, how about any tickets? I said, were you DOD, DOE? Were you FBI? Were you three-letter? Were you polygraphed in NSA or CIA? Did you have different types of polygraphs? And he's just looking at me. I said, brother, there's need to know. There's caveats. Do you know there's probably 600 or 700 different just freaking compartments and need to know compartments with digraph or trigraph, right, identifiers? And he's just looking at me. I said, anybody can have a secret clearance. I said, anybody. And I said, if Bigfoot was out there, it's in a compartmented STO or SAP or an ACCM or one of these other clearance level caveats, or it's stuck in a skiff, right? Or they took it out of all the systems in a compartmented air gap system, and I don't have a need to know, how would I know? How the hell would I know that? And he goes, now I know you know. Now I know you know. Because you're being way too wordy. You're covering it up. The fact that you're telling me that you don't know means you know. You're right. Thank you, Derp State. People, I can't even tell you. I had the classified number of people in NSA. I ain't gonna tell you. It's a lot. But that doesn't count NRO, NGA. There's 17 different intelligence agencies in the United States government. Did you guys know that? 17. Now, not the subgroups either. Right? And when you talk about the authorities of each of those groups, they trickle down to hundreds. You're talking about expeditionary operations centers or air operations centers on the Air Force side. You're talking about, my Lord, you're talking about specific signet front or human front loaded individuals in units that have their own authorities based on multiple types of documentation and flow downs from case law. Tens of thousands. And people in the military or military intelligence, they know exactly what I'm talking about. But the more I explained to this guy, the more I tried to dig down, the more he knew that me explaining to him how wrong he was meant he wasn't wrong. That's a hell of a lesson at 34 years old, guys. Right? Bigfoot. Listen, guys, I want to believe so badly that somehow there's some kind of thin veil that only separates us from the alien grays, Bigfoot, and Chupacabra. And let me tell you, I even went to Point Pleasant, did a quick gander for Mothman. I'm telling you guys, just to talk to people, just to see the light in their eyes, right? Piercing into my soul. You got to believe, right? You got to believe. You know, there's something so much greater than us. And my question is, how much greater can we get than this beautiful world we're on? How much greater can we get when I get up and the sun comes up and I'm 55 and I'm still above ground? And I have grandchildren and kids, and that with the ability for self-determination. How much better does it get than that? And why the hell are we always searching for something else to grasp onto? And I know why, because I was raised Mormon. Because we were the only true religion. Because we were the ones who had access to things nobody else had. We were the special people. And I believed that for a long time. Because that's a cult. And if there's LDS on here, I still love you. But it's a cult. Doesn't make sense. There's no damn thing such thing as collab. And I don't think polygamy is all that great. And I certainly don't think underage girls should be part of your wedding party. I don't think we can baptize the dead. I don't think that either. I don't think there's a prophet that somehow there's one singular person or group that has a direct pipeline, a laser beam into their frontal lobe from some deity, but yet I can't access it. And I have to follow that and give a portion of my money to make sure that I have access to those blessings. Everything's a grift. And then I'm like, man, I am a pessimist, but I'm not. I love life, you know? And when I think about what's going on in the State of the Union and the people sitting there clapping for a guy who's been adjudicated for sexual assault, who's a felon, who's run long lines of fraud, who is a friend with one of the most just abominable human beings in Jeffrey Epstein, who we know they're redacting files, who we know they're hiding for him, who we know is an inveterate liar, a whole administration of liars. It's a grift. And I'm out here while everybody else is talking about the State of the Union like in some political way. Nobody is talking about the fact that it's the voters and the credulous that put him there. And that we have a disinformation ecosystem that's almost impossible to control. Point Pleasant, Ohio, I believe. I might have gotten it wrong. It's been so long. It's right across the West Virginia border. I actually read The Mothman. I just didn't watch the movie with Richard Gere. And I guess the fact that people that I know have said that I'm evil because I don't like Trump, that I've lost family members and friends, it's personal. It's been personal for years. And the fact that my career started with the far left lying about me, just massive and just inveterate, just immoral shite, right? Saying I'm a porn lover and that I'm a Nazi because I'm a Republican. And this is 2018. This is my first time running for federal office. I'm like, what is going on? Even me. I didn't even realize the game I was getting into. But I'm very good at fighting disinformation, cats. I wasn't that on my heels, and I was able to turn it. And the fact that I could plant somebody saying they were kink shaming me, that's what I did. And that took off. And the fact that I made light of it. And the fact that I took every interview because I knew I had to, and I laughed. And anybody now comes and said, oh, it's the Bigfoot guy. I'm like, yeah, it's the guy who knows that you're in a cult too. Because if you believe that, you also have no ability to think critically. Because all you got to do is buy it or rent it or lease it, or I don't know if you can rent. Hey, can I rent that book? That's called a library. My Dewey Decimal System is Bigfoot 1.0. When that guy got done, back to the story of the guy, the more that I denied that there's no way I can know about Bigfoot belief systems, he went into the Mount St. Helens and the Fort Lewis story back in 1978, if you guys look that up. And that he knew that I knew it all, and that I was there to track, and he knew that I had all the names of everybody in the party, and I was reporting back to the federal government, and all of them would meet some kind of weird end, or they would be audited by the IRS. I said, man, yep, that's it. You got me. Fucking hell. And it's the same thing I had when people say that January 6th wasn't a coup attempt. It's the same thing that I try to do when I try to source that I know more than just about anybody on the planet on what happened on January 6th because I saw the data, or the Hunter Biden forensics, or that the Comer crap, or the fact that mostly foreign agents were giving all of the actual activities and data about Hunter Biden to people, right? To Giuliani and Steve Bannon, that there were Chinese and Russian groups for Hunter Biden. And then when you look at Steve Bannon and the Epstein files, and all of a sudden, guess what you realize, everybody, is that it's the same damn people. And it's the same people, right? When you talk about running Bigfoot expeditions and charging people, or running UFO expeditions, or Skinwalker Ranch and that shite, right? Take me. Take me out there. And they're not going to. Nobody will. I swear to God. Because I will eat them up. Because I ain't scared. I ain't scared, as my dad would say. Because it's bullshit. 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 And that's what we're looking at today. I don't have to watch the State of the Union to know it was a grievance fest. And by the way, lack of talent will destroy our country and superstition. Because a country will fail. Superstition cannot be our guiding light. So tonight, my friends, I hope you have some questions. Can anybody let me know through text on my right or through, is the State of the Union over or is he still talking? Because I'd like to know if he's trying to break his record still. Because if he's still up there, I mean, this is like Kim Jong-un, you know, or when Stalin gave his speeches, his long speeches, or any of these freaking dictator types, you know, when they're doing it. So does anybody have any questions? I can see the comments on the right side. We are, yes. Yeah, I do. I sure do. I remember the stolen TSSCI documents at Murdelardo. I do remember Helsinki. I guess what I'm telling everybody as we go into the last of my stories tonight. When I knew I was done. I knew there was nothing else I could learn when we ran our last expedition in the Adirondacks. Now, the West Virginia expedition that we had done was pretty amazing. It was near the Monongahela National Forest. And that turned into an insane thing because I will tell you guys this, and I want to tell you guys really quick. I talk about money, sex, and power. Even the grifts like Bigfoot, UFOs, even Loch Ness Monster stuff, all it's about money, but it's also about sex. So a lot of the stuff that you saw going on in the 2004 and my other expeditions is the hookup parties that were going on within Bigfoot believers. And even some of them would say Bigfoot is who brought us together. Bigfoot was also like a weird dating service. You know, it was like the hairy Hasuti booty, right? Come on down. Bigfoot is your matchmaker, you know. So what I found out, there was a lot of tent swapping going on. And my wife and I, we were actually even invited to a party the last night. We're like, now we're good. And I think that was the thing that really struck me was the money and that people were there without their wives or husbands, but they were wives or husbands, if you get my drift. And the power of the expedition leader, of the people that were leading, because they had seen Bigfoot, gave them this weird royalty. And it reminded me of prophets, people who say they have a direct line to God or Jesus, people who have seen aliens, people who have been behind the door, who claim to have seen alien autopsies or seen bodies or seen NHI. So what I'm warning everybody about is this. Anybody who claims to have special knowledge on stuff that's unproven is a grifter. It's a very simple formula. Now, they might even believe it, but whether you're getting shot or accident, shot on purpose, that's it, right? So, swipe left for Bigfoot, absolutely. Derb's taped up to twice. He goes, Denver's not missing this one. That's pretty good. You know, and I hope as people are listening to this while the State of the Union is going on, there was other things I wanted to talk about, but I feel like that maybe I don't want to exhaust you because I could talk about Bigfoot for about 20 days straight and UFO belief systems. I can certainly talk about white nationalist belief systems. I can talk about LDS belief systems. I could talk about Southern Baptist. My first degree was going to be in theology at the University of Virginia. I also studied the awfulness that went on in the former Yugoslavia for hundreds of years, almost a millennia, but also what had happened, especially in World War II, World War I, World War II, and then on to the Balkan conflicts. I was deployed there with the Eastern Orthodox, the Catholics, and the Muslims in the former Yugoslavia. We could have all those discussions. So tonight, you know, I'm going to, you know, I don't want to keep you guys much longer because I love you all. And I think we've had such a great time. And there's going to be a lot more of this as we go along. But with this special thing with State of the Union tonight, I just wanted to let every one of you guys know that I really appreciate that you would come over here and watch me tonight with my Bigfoot hat. This hat was a gift after I actually was on Saturday Night Live. This was a gift that somebody got me, and I can switch out hats, by the way, guys. If I want to be ironic, I have my Bigfoot believer hat that I wear out a lot of times, and then I can really attract some great conversations when I wear this hat. So you guys know, man, I'm a spy. I'm a cryptid spy because I can change hats. I can do all kinds of stuff, right? So appreciate you. Gonna wrap it up. Here we go. There's no difference between people who believe in 4 different types of Bigfoot and the sub-belief cultures, alien abductions, NHI, MAGA, J6, round earth or flat earth, 9/11 truthers, ghosts, mystics, astrology, prophecy, not validated, not scientific. And if you find somebody who believes one, they're probably going to believe another. There's great people out there who are credulous. There's great people who have these belief systems. I love you. I'll hug you. But I ain't going to take the ride. Not until you prove to me through scientific evidence, through the scientific method, that the dragon in your garage is real. Read Carl Sagan in The Demon Haunted World. You have to have proof, or I'm not going to take that ride. And it's the same with January 6th. It's the same with what Trump says. It's the same with the numbers that come out of the government. It has to be sourced, verifiable. You have to use common sense, critical thinking. And I would ask all of you, don't do your own research, do your own sourcing. And make sure that even what I say, every now and then go and say, is Denver just smoking crack? Is he talking a lot of smack? I'm going to keep doing this. The breach is a real thing. I ain't going away, guys. So what I ask you is I'll never charge. If you ever want to give a donation, though, you guys know me. A lot of you know me. A lot of you know who I am. And I will never lie to you. And if I'm mistaken, I'll correct myself. I have to. That's who I am. I'm not a narcissist or a sociopath, as far as I know. I am going to probably run for office again, which might make you question that. But I feel like if we don't go up against the narcissist and the sociopaths, if we don't stand up, they're going to win. And I wish I could remember the exact quote by Plato, right? And I'll summarize it more or less, is that if you don't get involved with politics, you're doomed to be ruled by your inferiors. Something like that. And I saw it firsthand. And that's why I got into politics, but I waited till I was 47 or 48 because I did not give a shit about politics or politicians. I couldn't stand them, right? So what I ask all you guys is to look at things sort of not with a jaundiced eye. I don't want you to be automatically pessimistic or just be a cynic to be a cynic. But if somebody comes up and tells you, right, you know, that they have a conjoined twin that's invisible, which is pretty much how crazy what people are saying today, don't do it. I also ask you in this new day and age, you can't just humor somebody. If you're at a party and they come up and tell you and say, hey, you know, Donald Trump and Epstein were just friends, or Donald Trump didn't know Epstein, or J6 was a day of peace, you can't let it slide. You got to say you're full of shit. You got to do it in a nice way. But this is house to house now. Propaganda and disinformation are winning. Stupidity is a disease, and it's metastasized across this entire country. And a lot of that is based on belief systems. And if you believe that the one person that's at your church is a prophet and better than the prophet at the next church, you're credulous. If you believe that Paula White, Donald Trump's spiritual advisor, says that Trump, whatever Trump says, is of God, then you're mentally ill or you're credulous, no matter how well-meaning. And I'll end with this. I always say stupidity is terminal. I think stupidity and ignorance could be as bad as evil because they don't know. And it's our job to make sure that we try to pull people back from the brink of credulity, even though it's almost an impossible task. I thank you guys for tonight. I thank you for humoring me with my Bigfoot stories. You guys are the best. I wish you nothing but love. I'll see you Sunday night on Denver After Dark, but I'm also going to do another show probably in the next couple of days on what's going on with Donald Trump and foreign stuff, because I'm really good at that. And you guys are great. Why is there something else going on tonight? Game of Fonz. Could you please tell me what you mean by that? Because I want to know, Game of Fonz. What else is going on? Are we talking about the State of the Union? Because that's awesome. I think there is. Tim, I love you too. It is a contagion. Derp State, thank you for your comments also tonight. You guys are wondering. Thank you so much. You know what? We just got a bump on the Substack. Holy shit. Guys, what's happening? Is it State of the Union over? Dot. So is State of the Union over? Carrie, thank you. Is it over? Somebody tell me. Is State of the Union over? I know you guys probably aren't watching because you're with me, but Dot or somebody out there, let me know. Nope, it's still going on. Okay. Okay. Love you too, Oppo Self. I want to ask you guys, are you guys done with me tonight? Because I can't believe how many people are on Substack Live right now and it's starting to roll. And this is starting to roll now. So I think people are getting bored with the State of the Union. And now I'm thinking, what the hell? No, you're not tired of me, Derp State, yet? Holy cow, keep going. All right, guys, I'm going to keep going. You know what? This is like, you know, those dance contests they had back in the day, the sock hops, right? Where they like, who could dance the longest? And actually people would die because they wanted to win $10 and a piece of apple pie. That's what we're doing right now. Keep going. All right, you got it. I'm heading to bed soon. Okay, Alpo Self. Thank you. You were here. So let's talk about, okay, you guys want to talk about real fraud? Let's talk about the Patterson-Gimlin film. Does everybody know what the Patterson-Gimlin film is? So 1967, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin were riding their horses near Bluff Creek. Now, why were they in Bluff Creek? Does anybody know? Bueller? Because in 1958, there were tracks found on Bluff Creek. So in 1967, they're like, we're going to go find out what these tracks are. Bigfoot's here. By the way, guys, in 1958, and I just want to let you guys know this, those tracks were faked. So if you look up 1958 Bigfoot, right, Bluff Creek, you guys will love this, right? Northern California, they discovered a 16-inch man-like footprints near Bluff Creek, a guy named Jerry Crew. Now, this was where Bigfoot was actually coined. Did you guys know this? Bigfoot wasn't around until 1958. A journalist coined it, just like the journalist who reported a bit falsely on Roswell. Yeah, same shit. And by the way, do you know after 1958, Bigfoot sightings exploded because it was memed? Read Joseph Campbell, Power of Myth, or A Hero with a Thousand Faces. 1947, after aliens were discovered at Roswell, same thing. So you had all this stuff happening, right? So you have this incredible big thing happening in Bluff Creek. You have Bigfoot researchers. By the way, and this is great. And can you guys see me when I go off here on the internet? Because I want to be very, very quick. The Humboldt Times actually published it. I did a whole thing on this before, but I wanted to be very cool about this. So the guy, I can't remember his name, and that's what I'm looking for. He admitted that he was the guy, right, who faked it. So now you have people on fake evidence, on no evidence, saying that Bigfoot must be there. And this is very important. And I'm going to try to foot stomp this. They captured a creature, Bigfoot, because they said they had evidence that Bigfoot habitated that area or traveled through that area or migrated through that area. None of that evidence was true. That's your first sort of clue that something's faked, right? Because you have fakery creating an evidence line that people are doing, just like crop circles, right? So also, I don't know if you guys know this, and it's in my book, Bigfoot, it's complicated. There was a bunch of financial issues with people connected to Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin. It was a logging company that were having a bunch of issues. I don't know if you guys know this. When the film was actually shown, they would actually charge cash at high school gyms. Also, when this film came out, this film was a roofing company actually sponsored it. I know. You guys didn't know this shit, did you? Did you? I do. Because I just followed the money. There's something else going on here.
Why would they take this film? It got to the point that Bob Gimlin refused to go to these showings and make cash. Roger Patterson then hired somebody to take Bob Gimlin's place, a double. So it looked like they were both there. So they would travel around the States and charge money to see this film until Bob Gimlin caught him. Please think about what I'm saying. Everything is about money, especially things that can't be proven but are profitable for those who push them. Joel Osteen. Televangelists, Bigfoot expedition leaders, ghost hunter leaders, ghost tours. It's okay. You can have fun. I'm not saying don't have fun. You could spend $10 on a ghost tour in New Orleans. I did. I laughed, but I did because everybody wanted to go. They wanted to be scared. I do not scare on that stuff. I just can't. I'm incapable. Literally incapable. People are like, hair standing up on the back of my neck. I'm like, yeah, it's your adrenaline. You're scared. You know what would scare me? Like a 6'5" guy with a chainsaw, like a physical manifestation of something going to chop off my head. Then I'm scared. Then I'm like, fuck. What am I going to do? Shoot him. Right? So that's what I'm talking about. You're going through this. So the Patterson Gimlin film is now the most talked about film, the penultimate, the proof that Bigfoot exists. It's a fake. There's no proof. You guys can go watch this stuff. Right? You had Bob Hieronymus come out and say it was him. Then they did gait analysis, like, well, the gait's not exactly the same. He was in a freaking suit, guys. And by the way, they fell off their horses. They lost their minds. They're filming. When you look at the actual distance, it was very close. Why didn't they run after those things on a horse? They were on horses. They had 30-odd sixes. Why weren't they flinging lead down range? There's so many questions I asked. People get, oh yeah, Dan. Well, they didn't want to kill it. They were no-kill guys. What? Well, really? 2 big hunters on horses didn't want to take out a beast to make sure they could prove it actually is a thing. Or they're not going to, they have a camera and they're on horses. Why wouldn't they follow it as long as they can? And these are very simple questions. Well, it was muddy. Okay. Right? So I guess we're in, I love Bob Gimlin. Him and my wife really got along. He's a horse trainer, great man. So I asked him a simple question. And you guys are probably like, oh God, hey, Derpstay, go pee. It's okay. I'm going to be here. Come back. So here's your issue. I asked him, could you have been, how about this? I said, could you have been spoofed? Did Roger Patterson, did he fool you? Were you hoaxed? He didn't have an answer. Now, you got the real common sense portion of this. What if Roger Patterson just wanted to make money for his friend? He had to have somebody with him. He hires Bob Hieronymus to walk there in a suit. They can utilize the proof that they had from the 1958 Bluff Creek sighting with Jerry Crew, which was also faked. Bob Taylor. I think Taylor was his last name. Look at that. It's coming back to this old brain. Bob Hieronymus said that he was the man in the suit till his death. Right? Okay, let me see. Blue Salami. The Sean Ryan pod where the military landed on a special ops. Is that true? I don't know exactly what you're referring to, Blue Salami. But if you have a better way, I don't know exactly. Sean Ryan. I mean, I've been asked, and Dot John's a good friend of mine on here. She's like, I need to go on some of these pods because I will rip them to pieces. I just know too much about it, right? Landed on special ops, Iraq. Again, okay, Blue Salami, we will take this up another time. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. I don't know what year, but I can talk about Osama bin Laden conspiracy theories if you guys want to. So, So I guess what I'm talking about, when you're talking about financial gain, that's what the Patterson-Gimlin film is all about. That film then spawned them making a lot of money till Roger Patterson died in 1972. Not a lot of money, but they were trying to capitalize. By the way, the Patterson-Gimlin film originals are gone. All you have are copies. So if we can ever find those originals, that would be really cool, right? And a lot of times that's what you find, right? It's sort of like the golden plates of Joseph Smith. After he translated them, Moroni came down and magically absconded with them. And it seems like a lot of prophets seem to lose the stuff that actually could prove what they are, don't they? It's the same thing with grifters and Bigfoot or UFOs or the CDD plates, right? If you're talking about the Voyagers by Ashiana Dean, right? When you're talking about the war between the harmonic universes, the 5 harmonic universes and the interdimensional travel between them, those plates were also taken up after they were translated. Funny, it sounds a lot like the Mormon religion. It sounds a lot like Scientology. I mean, guys, I'm not trying to be full-blown Christopher Hitchens here, right? Or Richard Dawkins or even Carl Sagan. I'm not. What I'm saying is there has to be empirical evidence. So when you look at the Patterson-Gimlin film, it's the same as anything you're seeing like Alien Autopsy, or you're seeing these films that are sort of shaded. Why is it always blurry? When you're looking at the gimbal film, all that is the exhaust on the back of a jet just going away from you. It's not hard. It's not hard. I mean, it's obviously been debunked. So I guess that's what I'm talking about, right? Liam Neeson is one of my favorite accounts, by the way, on Twitter. So Dot, how we doing? Did we reach the magic number you wanted to reach on because we are definitely keeping everybody in freaking stitches here. So respect the people, question the beliefs, Tim. You're exactly right. But at what point do you not respect the people if they're pushing your belief system or lying to people, even people in your family, and they know they're lying and they're cynics? And that's when you have to start ripping people limb from limb intellectually. You need to do that, everybody. It is time to do that. So I'm sure Trump is still going. Again, I just don't want to be here to keep going. I'm just a friend. You guys are hilarious. This is the best group of all time. I hope everybody's watching. I know people are probably starting to fall off a little bit. It's getting late. It's 10:30 p.m. It's a work night for a lot of people, or your kids, or you have to get up early. So the last thing I'm going to go into, and then I am going to end it, not because I can't keep doing this all night. The last thing I'm going to go into is this. 2026 is coming up in the midterms. You're going to hear a lot of stuff. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to have bizarre violence. You are going to have people at polls. You're going to have militia units or ICE in certain areas. It's going to be very specific, though, because there's only swing counties and states that have to be hit for the midterms to be effective. Most of the elections are going to be okay, but very specific ones might be targeted. They're going to try to pass laws to disenfranchise people. They're going to try to use process to do that. What I ask you guys as you're looking through this, I need everybody to be not just an activist. That's not the right word. I need you to be a directed voter that pulls as many people to the polls as you can. I need you to support in your congressional district those specific people who are speaking truth and facts. I need you to question anybody who would even sit in a UFO hearing or a hearing about interdimensional beings. You need to understand when you're looking at your political leaders, if it's something that's weird or it's something that's spiritual or it's something that's interdimensional or it's something unprovable, they're grifters or they're stupid. Both of those are bad outcomes. So I need you to make sure that you do this. You look at what's happening in your ecosystem. Look at your local elections. Local elections scare the shit out of me because local elections fly under the radar. When I'm asking everybody here, if you have weird school board members, you got Moms for Liberty, or you see white nationalists, or people have been affiliated with Proud Boys, or people like James Fishback, Florida, sorry, crazies, right? If they're acting crazy, they usually are. So I want you to make sure that is a very easy formula, right? If they say one thing that's nutty, they believe a lot more than that. If you're looking at, say, Trump, I've been behind the door with him. He's much worse behind the door. And think about how bad he is in public. He has no nuance. He has no filter. and he's a narcissist and a sociopath. I've been there. What he's saying in public is 30% what he's saying behind the door. It's the same with everybody around you. Okay. They're much worse than you think if they're bad. And if they're good, they're still not that great. So eyes wide open, not eyes wide shut, eyes wide open. So I need you to identify what you want to target in the local elections and who you want to support. And I need you to support them, sometimes financially. The scary thing about American politics, just like Bigfoot expedition leaders, is they run on money. We are a country that is money driven only. That is it. It's transactional. If you want to be in the game, you got to spend or you got to spend time. That's it. You can't sit on a keyboard. You can't just say things. It's great. You need to get your feet on the pavement. You need to either be in their face, you need to be in groups, or you need to be given money and being as active as you can. You can be active on social media, but you need to get outside, breathe the air, and go to war. That's my message for the night. I hope you guys had a great time. You guys have fun. And our MAGA mom wants a med bed. Okay. We can have a med bed discussion also. I'm happy to do that. But you guys are great. Thank you guys for the great night. I appreciate you all. You guys stuck with me for 1 hour, over 1 hour and 36 minutes. A lot of viewers. And Bigfoot doesn't live. Aliens aren't on Earth. There's no hidden craft. J6, the 2020 election wasn't stolen. Joe Biden is a legitimate president. Donald Trump and his minions tried to conduct a coup with multiple plans. If you want to read Bigfoot, It's Complicated, you will be shocked at how the people think, just like The Breach. The Breach is a data-driven book on January 6th. They're both audiobooks. I'm not trying to sell them. I would rather you guys go to the library. I don't need your money. But if you do want to have some fun discussions, buy it and return it. I don't give a shit. I don't. Borrowed from a friend. Audiobooks like $5 or something. It's been out so long. You guys have a good night. And thanks for being here. I'm going to end the stream and I'm going to wait to say goodbye to all you guys. Thank you for being so active and hanging with me. And I'll see you on the next show. Sayonara, Bigfoot Hal, Alien Love. Just kidding. Go kick some ass. Be good people. Treat each other well. Have a great night. See you guys. And out. And out. Okay. It says to play the outro and end stream. Okay. I'm going to play the outro. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2.